God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. And today we'll be covering the development updates for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, June 2022, and there's a lot here. Now, before we get started, this MMO in development is currently getting their network coding in place, and after that is complete, which we are getting an update on that this month in the newsletter, it will continue testing phases and can finish the implementations and goals needed to move into alpha. Now, they didn't waste any time during the Pantheon Rise of the Fallen June update to start letting us know that after combing the lore in careful consideration, they are updating the race class combinations a bit. So for example, the Druid previously could be an Archai, Dark Myr, Elf, Halfling, Human, or Ogre, but now Dark Myr can no longer be a Druid. This is because the Dark Myr don't have the greatest relationship with Terminus, but the Dark Myr has been added to the Shaman class because water holds some memory and they just fit better with the Shaman class overall. The Warrior has lost the Halfling. They believe they fit lore-wise with the Dire Lord. There is an actual tie for the Halfling story that would tie some of them with the Dire Lord class. The Cleric class isn't losing any. You can be Human, Dwarf, Dark Myr, and now they are adding the Elf. And then they got to my favorite part, the Paladin. Previously could only be Human or Dwarf, but now the Dark Myr and the Elves can be Paladins. I will absolutely be playing the Dark Myr Paladin now, and I am so freaking excited. For people who have been following me know, I have been begging for this for a long time, and more Paladins starting across the world is always a good thing in my opinion. The Ranger has added the Scar. Since they hunt the wilds anyway, I think this was a good fit, but they talk about some of the Ranger's abilities may be a little different for the Scar race when they choose Ranger. The Summoner class can now be an Archai. Now, I want you to see that this is the updated class race matrix, so you can pause the video and decide which race class you will want to be, especially with the alpha phase fast approaching. It's imminent, you might say. Now, we got a lot more to cover, but real quick, drop me a comment and let me know if these changes affect your decision for your race class combo and how you feel about it. And I'm going to take this moment to plug tomorrow's big event here on the channel, Cringe Pony TV. Episode 2 launches tomorrow, Saturday, 11 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. Eastern, filled with Pantheon jokes and jabs, EverQuest, and just generally, it's the Adult Swim for MMO fans. And it's a live show, so come check it out Saturday nights, where a new episode starts and runs between 11 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. Eastern, and runs for about 45 minutes. Then it will replay episode 1. See you there. Next up, they show off in-game footage, which I've already played a bunch of that in this video, but it is of the Monk class. Now, they mentioned at the beginning that this is on a real server, and it's still a work in progress, and later in the stream, they talk about how the art team has a big update to the rocks and mountains, which we will see very soon, but isn't present in this video. Now, they are showing off the Monk. They have updated this class to make the abilities more meaty and weighty. The feeling of progressing and feeling the effects of that growth is much more obvious now. They talk about downtimes being balanced. They don't want downtime to be outrageous, but if you burn up all of your resources because it was a really tough fight, for example, you will need to rest. Now, while resting, the longer you rest, the faster your regen will be. So resting will be part of the strategy for you and your group. They don't want it to feel like a punishment per se, but more of a strategy. There's also the aspect of food to help with regen. They want it to be a long-term buff solution, so 30-minute baseline. You will start the game with a stack of lower quality food in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen that gives you a +1 to regen rates to get you started. On the skills of the Monk class in Pantheon, they have added a ton of animations. This isn't the only class, but it is the only one that they showed off in this development update. But these are the ones that they showcased and showed off here with the Monk class. I think they looked really great too, and I appreciate them not being outrageously flashy, but feel more realistic and also look really satisfying. Now, the reaction to the hits, the enemy actually reacting to that or you reacting to being hit, those will be added, but they aren't in yet. And that will give the attacks the satisfaction of connecting that will really give Pantheon that next level and really add that satisfying feel where you can visually feel the hits. So look forward to that in the future. Sprinting was shown off for Pantheon. This adds to player agency so players can move at an increased speed. Now, this is a powerful tool, so it will be circumstantial. So they mentioned perhaps it's just to get to your group faster, for traveling around the world, or to get around a mob before they notice, while their back is turned for some mobs at least, for example, or to avoid an attack, or to get a guard, a train that you need killed. Now, sprinting uses endurance, so it has to be used with strategy. Once you are out of endurance, that will affect your combat abilities as well. Now, they also mention the difference of using just to travel as opposed to combat, and we will have to see how that turns out. Now, on the monk skills, they talk about Iron Palm, which is a starting ability and is great for increased damage, but for pulling, the monk has Soul Shuriken to grab faraway mobs. These two abilities, for example, are mentioned because they use two different resources. Now, remember that Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is going for a strategic tab target combat. The goal is that you will think of your resources and the downtime to regen it and react to what is happening in combat in such a way that it has balance. Not to even mention that your group makeup will affect all of that as well. For example, depending on what buffs or other abilities you can synergize with. Resonating Impact is another skill that was mentioned. It is a universal skill, they say, for the monk that can be used with any weapon type and returns a bit of health, which Minus says was very beneficial for solo play with the monk, which is how he mainly tested it between soloing and duoing with Ronick. Remember that Pantheon is built to be a group play MMO. However, we will all have those moments where we will be soloing a bit while waiting for that group to go to the really cool place or to get that increased XP or better loot that group play offers. So it was very nice to hear that they're paying attention to each class and how they play also in solo play and making sure the balance is there between solo and group play. They talk about how they don't want people clicking the ability just because it's off on cooldown, but hitting the ability because it is a smart move for this situation, and there be thought behind all of this. This type of strategic combat causes investment between the player and the character, and also is known to melt time like hot butter. All good things for MMORPGs, in my opinion. Real quick, before we continue, I want to say thank you to the members of Napalm. You are the sponsors of this video and channel. These are the brave heroes who have stepped forth and pledged, making everything I do possible. Thank you. If you are interested in becoming a member of Napalm with exclusive perks, please click the join button down below for a list of options. And I want to give a very special thank you to the Lords of Napalm. Bounty Code, We Toke Bitcoins, Jared Woodhouse, Daimlos, Farthest Reach, Not Sid, Sparrow, Carsonik, and Christopher Hensel. Thank you for your highest tier membership. Now on to the video. Now, just because they highlighted the monk, they have done a ton of work on the other classes as well. The Dire Lord and Rogue, for example, have been tuned, and the caster classes are mentioned as well. Now, there was a shot here at the 35-minute mark of the stream that the Enchanter mezzed a mob, then they took a quick break to regen, and it appears as though they're getting full regen when the only mob that is on them is mezzed, meaning that this is a strategy players can use in a pinch, and I really like it. Later, they mentioned that has to do with the longer you sit, the more regen you get, so that is why this strategy is working. They also talk about while testing, they got so into it that 4.5 hours were gone with the blink of an eye, which I can personally attest is the experience with Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. They go on to talk about how as soon as the network stack is complete, the development will move at an accelerated rate. There is a lot of artwork to be done, but as far as finishing up the classes and the programming and coding side of it, the updates will come fast and heavy. Now, they also mentioned an update to the network stack incoming with the newsletter this month, so I have my fingers crossed. Because as we all know, they will resume testing once the network stack is in place as well. So this is the biggest news that anybody could get. Now, they go back and reiterate that the animations for reactions to hits isn't in yet, but they have a dedicated animator rigger now working hard to get those animations in Pantheon. They also bring up spacing between the character and the mob in regard to melee and how they want to allow some spacing between because they don't want melee to be all stacked up so on top of the mob for connection that you can't even see the mob anymore. At what level can players expect will be that level that they will want to start grouping up? They didn't have a complete answer though because balance is an ongoing process, but just keep in mind, nothing can stop you from grouping up immediately upon logging in. It's more of a balance of when does it make perfect sense to start leveling up, and they say that at level 10 is likely that magic level. Now, once again, you can solo all you want. It will just be more difficult, as it should be. Doing things by yourself is always harder than doing with a group, but as stated a million times, with an MMO MMORPG, there will always be times that all of us will have to solo a bit, and there are massive advantages to grouping to drive the players to want to do that. This was a very meaty update for Pantheon Rise of Fallen, our upcoming MMORPG home, and I hope you enjoyed my recap. If you are new here, please subscribe and like the video to help me battle the YouTube algorithm. And come watch Cringe Pony TV with me on Saturday at 11 p.m. Central, 12 a.m. Eastern for some MMORPG fun. And until next time, my friends, God bless and happy gaming.